Welcome to Market Buzz. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician and host of the Market Buzz. Each show we do a deep dive into different industries using weekly charts to see what is happening on a long timeline. Please follow me on Twitter at Schnell Investor, and you can also find my blogs on gregschnell.com as well as stockcharts.com. So our rally continues. We've been pushing up nicely. Today I want to cover off what's going on with what's hitting new highs in the large cap space. Lots of small cap stuff, seriously buzzing up to new highs. A quick scan I did was stocks hitting new highs over $5 on the Nasdaq or the New York Stock Exchange, just not including the Amex or anything like that. And it was 850 in February. So tons of stocks pounding on the new highs buzzer, lots of them in the small cap arena. So what I want to cover off today is let's look through the large caps. There's some nicer setups that we're going to see in here, but they're kind of focused in a few groups. Still don't have energy names. Well, probably not energy names in large cap anymore. Still don't have a lot of energy names in that particular group from the large caps, but we do have a lot coming through in different sectors. So I'm going to point that out and we're going to jump into that. So let's do that. So first of all, Nasdaq screaming up for the last 7 days here, running up, and then today just closed pretty much flat. Volume is dropping off on the Nasdaq. This is the Nasdaq 100. When we look at the Nasdaq Composite, it is just crazy, which would include small caps. The volume profile is much different. You can just see screaming to huge volumes here. Upwards of 8 billion shares a day. Really amazing, actually. So just the large caps aren't getting the volume, but the small caps are. So that's quite an interesting story. And then the only other thing is the S&P 500. What we see there is the volume declining as well. So again, the focus is on the small caps in a big way. And I think what we want to be aware of, I could break down a whole bunch of small cap trades. What I wanted to do was just focus on the large caps this week and just point out some of the good ones that are starting to change shape. Now, when we go look at the actual list here, let me just go to summary mode first. And the reason I've done that, so again, just to break it down into sectors and see what's going on. Consumers or communication services, maybe I should define how this is sorted. So over here, it's got a sort order put on it. And what I did was I sorted it by industry and then sector. So it'll make the sector come to the top first, so that it's alphabetically by sector and then the industries within those sectors. Okay, so the communication services, you can see a few of these names here. Google obviously was one of the names hitting new highs. Discretionary is one of the big ones, but it's really spread out across a whole bunch of different areas. We don't have a lot, piling up in one particular space. So I thought that was interesting. Now we're only 7 days into February, but the idea was to just kind of look around and see what was happening. Consumer staples, there's only two. And again, not that big a group. Then energy, there's the one, Cimarex Energy, and then financials a little bit broader, but again spread across quite a few. So we're not seeing any particular area really dominate. Healthcare was okay. Again, I don't try to focus on those too much. They're a little bit trickier to trade for most people. Some of the large caps are all right, but the small caps tend to get a little more volatile. And then what we also see, obviously, is a whole bunch of stuff related back to the COVID situation and a bunch of different ways to play that in healthcare. So we won't be focusing on that as much from that angle. Industrials only 4 or 5, and then looking at technology, still a large chunk there, and only one utility. So is it dramatic change? I don't think so. We're evenly spread across all the groups. What I wanted to show was that the market in general continues to go higher, and it's not really leaving a lot of groups behind right now. I actually thought last week or the week before it was actually going to break down harder than it did, but that 4% pullback was about all we got. So difficult to read any more into it than that. Very broad-ranging rally here with lots of stuff going. So here's Comcast, and I asked for a scooter ranking above 50 because I didn't want stocks down in the 30% level. Just wanting them to be at least better price action, behaving better than most of its peers, or at least half of the peers in the large cap group. So we've got an uptrend here and we're breaking out to highs. So of course all of the candles for new highs are going to be over here on the last two stocks hitting. It doesn't have to be new all-time highs, but at least new one-year highs. So here's Comcast Corp, and what we see here, momentum trend is nice and high and it just keeps working up here. Doesn't look like it's in trouble at all. Disney, I've been a fan of Disney since it broke out of this range back in here. And that early October, November timeframe when the vaccinations came through, that really soared up. We pulled back for a couple of weeks and now we're breaking back out to new highs. I like that breakout to new highs. Again, the stock looks excellent. There's no reason to not like it. It looks pretty good. And travel and tourism continues to be one of the stronger performing areas. So a little different. Disney's in the communication, but obviously with the theme parks and all of the on-site experiences, it leads into others as well. Activision Blizzard, we can see it breaking out to new highs here, pushing up nicely, so that works out quite well. And then when we look at Google, Google had an excellent earning quarter back in October, popped up to new highs, and then just jogged sideways almost all the way into January, and now has done the same thing, jumped up. So I don't know if we're destined for a sideways move, but the data is pretty nice on Google. There's still the possibility, Alphabet I should say, there's still the possibility of the split out of Waymo this year, which is their automated driving or autonomous driving structure. So if that splits out into a separate company, that might give a little bit more lift to the Google name as well. So looking at TripAdvisor, again, you're in the travel area here, trying to break out to this upside. I know we use the TripAdvisor when we're traveling around to pick a restaurant or something like that, so that works pretty nice. Anyway, scooter ranking is getting back into the top category here, and I think it could run for a while as the vaccine rollout continues. Twitter finally breaking out to new highs here. It's been a rather jagged start here since October, where it kind of bombed out and then now is starting to run up to the upside. So a nice breakout this week, and that looks set to continue. I think what I like the most is you can look back here, call it $50, and we were at $50 in late January, and now we're off to the races here. We're up in the 60s. Looks to me like we're setting this up to start making the long on-ramp. Of course, they're coming out with a subscription model at some point. Interpublic Group of companies. So this one just nicely pushing up here. Nothing really major going on, but that one's pushing up okay. And then when we look at News Corp, this one just keeps working its way higher. It's been a relatively smooth ride since the November liftoff. No real major pullbacks to speak of. So that chart looks good. Now when we get into apparel retailers here, we've got Kohl's Group. And one of the things about Kohl's, it's come up here and now it's kind of hitting its resistance layer of late 2019 and trying to get moving. So it's at new 52-week highs, but the real question is, has it got the power to keep going? The volume's really gotten light on this name in the last 10 weeks, so that's a little bit more concerning, I think. Foot Locker, this one pushes up nicely here. Nike's been pretty strong with its online presence, so it doesn't really get the love over onto the Foot Locker side as much, it seems like. But this chart is still doing very, very well. From October, it went from 40 to 50. I wouldn't call it speeding away here, but it's still working its way higher. Nothing wrong with that. And price action is one of the better ones out there. Limited brands pushing up to new highs here, a little bit rocky with kind of $5 swings each week for 3 out of the last 6. We'll see if it can continue to get any better. But yeah, this chart's still trending higher and looking good. Again, all of these charts are going to be pushing up in the right-hand corner, so hopefully none of that surprises us. It's not like what I scanned for was good-looking charts making new highs on the right-hand side. So that's all right. And then what we see here is this $55 level kind of holding here for 4 weeks for GM. Big thing about the computer chips for a whole bunch of things, everything from phones and iPads all the way through to new cars. That appears to be an issue that's actually getting wider and wider in the market, so we'll need to be aware of that. That might put a little bit of a stall on these automakers as they try to roll out their electrics without computer chips. It might be difficult. Pinduoduo, don't know if that's how you say it, but that's how I say it. We're sitting here with a flat momentum indicator. It hasn't done much for the last while, but it's still trending at 20%. So while the indicator looks flat, this rate of percentage growth is quite high. So the stock continues to perform, and we're pushing up around the $200 level here. Quite nice. Looking at Hanes Brands, this one had a big earnings report and literally jumped through to new multi-year highs. That's a pretty powerful push, I think we'd all agree. I like the fact that the PPO is just turning up again. A little hard to buy it on an extension here, but maybe get a bit of a pullback in the next couple of weeks. Just as somebody lets that kind of settle in, call it an earnings gap, and then buy it on the dip. Tapestry, some of the nicer higher, I'll call it mid-range luxury, breaking out to new highs here. Looks really good. We've been on this one. If you've been listening to the Market Buzz, I think we covered this off in September, October timeframe. It's been a pretty smooth ride. Capri Holdings, another large cap in the clothing and accessories, and that one as well looks pretty strong. It's been flat a little bit lately. Still up at a high level, 20%. We'll just wait to see if it can kind of pop up one more time. Usually they do well into April, late March. Under Armour probably had their name on TV a little bit this week with Jordan Spieth finally being close to the winner's circle or in the lead of the golf tournament this weekend. And so that probably helped them a little bit. Actually, the stock started to move on last week, but at least they're getting a little bit of publicity out of that and starting to push up higher. We can see the scooter ranking's been up here since October, so that looks pretty good, and the chart continues to climb. Snap-on Holdings. This chart's climbing okay. Well, you can see the scooter ranking. It never kind of really gets into the top portion. So that would be one of the reasons that I would probably just take this chart and delete it. Looking at Newell Brands, again, more consumer product stuff. Obviously doing very, very well, up at new 2-year highs and very close to 3-year highs on the chart here. So this is pushing up nicely. Scooter's been up here for a while, so that's nice to see. And then looking for Mohawk Industries, furnishings, breaking out to new multi-year highs. Everybody's staying at home, buying new furniture. And then MGM Resorts, I still like the whole travel and leisure, and a week or two ago I did the Market Buzz on that area of the market, wrote an article about hotels for chart watchers. So I still think this whole area's got lots of room to expand as the virus settles down. I think most people who have been cooped up want to get out and really hit the road. So I'm expecting that to be big. So this is sitting up here trading around 35. Prior highs were 34. So we're breaking out to new multi-year highs. Looks like almost 3-year highs here. That's a pretty strong picture, and I think that chart continues to break out of the base. Lennar, we know the housing has been very good with people moving from downtown locations out into the suburbs and getting a little more space if they're not going to work. or perhaps getting more space to work in the house. So Lennar's been doing very well, turning up nicely here. Chart looks really good. And DR Horton, another one, breaking out to new highs. This was sitting around $30 in October and just starting, sorry, $80 in October and just starting to gently push its way up. Everything on the chart looks pretty good here. The PPO momentum has turned back up well above zero. That's just bullish until it changes pattern. Same thing with Lowe's Corporation, breaking out to new highs here, pushing up against this 179 level. Nice. I mean, that those stores have been busy with the home improvement. Garmin recreational products pushing up to new highs, really looks good. You can see the PPO continues to extend, making higher highs and higher lows. That just looks very strong. And then Live Nation Entertainment, a few people assuming that there will be some tickets sold. As this starts to break out here, I think, again, we're hitting all-time highs. That'll probably be one of the biggest things that people start to do. Getting into the restaurant side of things, Darden pushing up above to new 3-year highs. That's amazing considering the economy's been slow to get going, but they're already there. So the investors are definitely looking at the future and not current. eBay broke out today, and I bought 3 items on eBay today. I'm not a big eBay shopper. I think that was the first time I was there in years. I had heard a CNBC article with him a few weeks ago. Anyway, this is starting to turn up, and I like the shape of the chart. Looks pretty good. Etsy, really a nice climb. Obviously, look at how the scale is compressing. I always like when you can just look at the scale and see how fast the stock is moving. The scooter ranking tells you the same thing. But this was a $20 stock 2 years ago. It's $240 now. And look at the move it made from $30 to $240. It's just been beautiful. Looking at Ulta Beauty, this one, as the world settles down and people can get their hair cut again and open up, I think all of this whole specialty retailer where people get to spoil themselves a little bit is probably going to do very, very well. And maybe just one more thing on that. You can see the scooter ranking just getting back into positive territory for the first time in about 18 months. That looks pretty good. And it's a pretty strong stock in general with lots of high margin retail. Archer Daniels Midland pushing up to a nice high here, starting to thrust above the January highs. The whole food inflation thing looks very strong. Grains have been really, really good, like wheat, soybean, corn. So all of those things look pretty good. Looking at Estee Lauder, another one I'd put in the same line as the Ulta Beauty, lining up to go higher here. Really nice. Looking in on Cimarex Energy, one final energy stock actually making the list, just barely getting up above its February last year high. And we can see it's been in a big multi-year downtrend, so nice to finally get, it had been below the 40-week moving average for 2.5 years, finally starting to migrate a little bit higher here. It's at $50. Prior high in 2020 was $53. So looking for it to keep pushing up and higher on. I really like oil here. There's a lot of people talking about $100 oil. I don't know if it gets there, but I still think there's a 70 or 80 attached to it this year. Most people didn't think there was going to be a 50 or a 60, and we're already, I think we were in 58 today, so we're holding up nicely. Invesco, so we're getting into the financials here. Asset managers looking pretty nice. Again, hitting 2-year highs as everybody's portfolio is doing pretty well. Affiliated Managers Group, this stock's really shooting up this week. Big move, and again, the asset managers with higher returns, things look better. BB&T just barely breaking out to new 52-week highs, just on its way here. So you're starting to break out to new 3-year highs. That looks pretty strong. Regions Financial, this one's broken out, let's call it early January, but it looks like the March is continuing above this big base. And then SVB Financial Group, this chart's been running, it broke out way back in early October, and look at that nice climb out of the hole from 275 to 525. That's a stunningly big push. Capital One Financial, I think we've all seen the commercials. I can't miss them. Anyway, we're pushing up into the top right-hand corner at $115. That's a long way off the $37 low. But really, the surge to new 52 weeks highs started early January, and as we're on the way here, just trying to break out of this consolidation. So you break out of the new 52-week high, and then you consolidate for a little bit and just see if there's weak holders, and then all of a sudden the stock starts to rock. So I like that setup. That looks pretty good. Wells Tower Watson. This one has been up against this resistance level at 220 for a whole year. It's just been crazy how hard it is. So it's nice to see it finally push through. Big swing from 200 to 220 last week, and now this week starting to rock on to 230. It looks to me like it's ready to accelerate out of the base, and we saw that back here where it had a base building for a year and then went on a nice run in 2019, so perhaps it can do the same again. Ameriprise Financial, this one's just been pushing up, holding above the 10-week moving average. Chart just looks very strong up and to the right. Raymond James Financial, this one, again, same idea, breaking out to new 3-year highs here in early January as it broke out, consolidated for 6 weeks, and looks like it's ready to step on the gas and work its way higher. Looking in on our good friends at MetLife, breaking out to new 52-week highs. This chart hasn't, it's not that bad, 44 to 50, so let's just call it a real 2-year base. Doesn't have a lot of volatility. You can see the scale isn't all that squeezed from 22 to 55. I think that Etsy scale was like 10x inside the scale. This one's just a little bit more than a double. Looking in on Chubb, breaking out to new all-time highs here. Pretty nice push. I think the home security and insurance area probably continues as people focus at home. So that's a pretty nice look. Illumina, this one is breaking out to new 3-year highs, just pushing. We're in biotech. I'm not really a big biotech fan, so I might just show you the names here. HCA, LH, Waters Corp, Align Technology. This one had a really big move. A couple weeks ago from 500 to 650. That's pretty strong, and now just consolidating. It's a beautiful chart if you're into the medical area. Hologic, IDEX Labs, McKesson Corp, and Abbott Labs. All of those are on the list this right now, and here's Abbott Labs. You can see a nice push a couple weeks ago, working its way up. This chart's really, really strong. The PPO stays above 0 all the time. There's a really nice uptrend. Catalent Health and Pharmaceuticals. This one's actually been a relatively smooth name up. I'm not actually aware of it very much, but that's a strong-looking chart. Climbs quite nicely from 30 to 120, so 4x on the scale. Smith AO Corp, building materials, much like the Lowe's and all of that kind of stuff. This one's breaking out to higher highs here above the fall, so that looks set to continue. United Rentals, obviously the more construction and the more things get done at home, this chart can break out to new highs, sitting up around 260, and it's probably got more room to go if we're not really moving back to the office until the fall. Deere & Company with ag taking off. Look at this big, beautiful base. It's when you see them breaking out of these multi-year bases and start to rock. This was 180 in here, and all of a sudden we're at 306. So chart looks set to extend, especially with inflation trying to hit the food industry. So here's Emerson Electric. I've been buying a little bit of their parts this week. Bought a new hot water dispenser for my sink. This one's pushing up to new highs, sitting in around that $70 level. You can see horizontal resistance just starting to break through it. I get the feeling it could be just like Deere & Company and start to push higher. One thing I will say about Emerson, it doesn't really ever get into that top quadrant, which is kind of disappointing. Old Dominion Freight Line, this one got added to the S&P a few years back and has been humming ever since. Look at this scooter ranking staying up near the top. It's been sideways for 6 months and looks like it's just ready to start trying to break out again. It's trying to break this downtrend and get going. I can't imagine the freight business slowing down with everybody getting package deliveries. Avery Dennison Corp, again, working its way higher. So that one looks pretty strong. And looking in at CBRE, real estate services, I think we all know that the housing market's hot. I'm not sure about the commercial real estate market. I think there's a few buildings for sale, actually. Sitting up around 67, pushing to new highs, and now we'll just see if it can break out of this consolidation range. Weyerhaeuser with the building services doing so well. These lumber areas have been really nice to watch. And again, this one's going back here 3 years ago, $35. We're sitting at $35. It looks like it wants to break out to new all-time highs. HPQ, this one's really been growing well from $20 to $28. Nice gentle climb up here. Pretty good looking trend. CDW Corp, a little bit kind of had a big surge in November, went sideways, now retesting that surge. So this 145 level is pretty important. We're sitting at 150. If it can keep climbing out of here, it probably tells us that the next trend is on its way. Gartner Group, this one, look at the big breakout it had, 160 to 190. That's a nice pop. Going back through, there was a 170 hiding in the middle of 2019. I will say this chart responds a lot to earnings. There's gaps in it every 3 or 6 months. So anyway, it really enjoyed this pop. PayPal Holdings, I think we all know what they do, and I used them today, pushing up to new highs. Very strong stock, continues to deliver. C Limited Computer Services, what a smooth chart. That just keeps grinding higher. $25 to $300, so 10x on the scale. That's pretty nice. And then TRMB, Trimble, working its way up. This has really started to accelerate in early November and just keeps grinding higher. Electronic equipment, I don't know anything about it, but look at the volume that came in here a few weeks ago. So that would be interesting to watch. If it can break through this 75 layer, that looks pretty solid. And Broadcom, semiconductors, just all these semiconductor charts have been very solid, staying above the 10-week here, just gliding its way higher. Nothing wrong with that look. Texas Instruments, same thing. Scale is not quite as compressed on Texas Instruments, so this is a double. If we go back and look at Avco Broadcom, here we were at 150 to 450, so a triple instead. That would be the reason I'd lean to one over the other. Skyworks, this scale is just starting to get taking off. It's a big part of the 5G play. And our good friends at Microsoft, I was paying my Skype dues this week, so that one's taken off. Everybody's got their hand in my pocket, it seems, as I look through this list. Anyway, they're all breaking out to new highs. It looks pretty solid. Ansys Technology Software, sitting up nicely, looks pretty darn good. I only have a few stocks left here, but Fortinet, ServiceNow, Arista, and NRG, again, all of these stocks pushing on to new highs. The big thing to remember here is we've run a long way, but a lot of these charts look like they're still ready to make fresh new highs. ServiceNow, this chart's just got a very nice smooth uptrend, so if you're looking for something smooth, that one's pretty solid. Arista Networks, pushing up to new highs here. Looks like 3-year highs. It wouldn't take much to pop through to all-time highs. When we get into energy, I think this is, utilities, conventional electricity, and, finally breaking out to new all-time highs. And I just think that whole electricity area is going to be big with the move to electric cars, autonomous driving, all that stuff. So with that, thanks for taking the time to join me on Market Buzz. Market Buzz airs Wednesdays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. You can also see the recording on StockCharts TV YouTube page. Thanks for taking the time to join me. Have a good week. Stay safe.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're going to bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.